from the third dimension.
This is 3D or 2D.com's Duh 3D Show.
Put on your 3D glasses now.
If you're wondering what the 3D stand for, they are discussion, debate, and the news. We hope that you enjoy the show. Get it? The show?
Duh.
Hello. Welcome to the 3D Show 102. I'm Adolf, and I have with me the Jake. Say hi, Classic Jake.
Hi.
Say howdy, New Jake.
Howdy.
Now, New Jake, what is our current date and time?
All right, it is Sunday, August 22nd at 1:24 Eastern Standard Time.
2021. As you may know, things may change by the time you listen to this. It's an ongoing battle to fight the news and see what things happening and what things change and what things stay the same. And there's always details that leak after we record, and you can only do so much. So let's get to it. New Jake, do you have some frustrations about that?
A slight. Not major. I'm used to it by now. That's still slightly frustrating.
Yeah, it's frustrating for all of us, and we want to give you factual news, and we don't want to give you rumors. We don't want to give you fake news, or but it's also one of those things that we don't always know the entire stories, and we got what we got from different press, but there's probably some behind the scenes stuff we don't know about. So the first story is a big one. That Scarlett Johansson is suing or has sued Disney because of the money with Black Widow. Classic Jake, can you give us more details on this story?
Yeah, well, basically, Scarlett Johansson kind of took a lot of crap over Black Widow, mainly, because we've said several times on this podcast that it should have came out before Iron Man 3. And it was supposed to be her payday, and it wasn't. So she sued, and it's hopefully they settle it, or she wins, because Disney clearly did violate the contract.
They said that go to arbitration. Disney wants it to go to arbitration as fast as possible.
Yes.
Well, Bob. This is on Bob Chapek.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the contract we don't know details of. Obviously, we may never actually have the details of, but it did not mention streaming it day and date, like for Disney Premiere, because when they made the contract, that didn't exist, and the pandemic didn't exist. So Disney had to, hey, we got to get an option here to try to make money on digital releases as well. So they did that, which was a breach of contract, which obvious to anyone.
Yeah, and Disney had made a deal with Dwayne Johnson over Jungle Cruise, and they didn't with Scarlett Johansson.
Yeah, I hope Emily Blunt also got some sort of payback or whatever.
Yeah, I haven't heard any reports on one way or another. It seems like she's keeping info tight.
Yeah.
I'm sure and there's also no word on what Emma Stone got about Cruella.
It must have been pretty major to seal the deal for Cruella 2 that soon.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just Scarlett; it was multiple people, because part of their money, part of the deal was box office percentage, and obviously having a run on Disney Plus cuts into that, where it cuts into their money. And Classic Jake, you mentioned this before, when Warner Brothers had the deal with HBO Max released in day and date, they cut the deal for the actors, so that way, for the most part, most people are okay with that. They're not too pissed, besides Dune, but that's a whole other story. For the most part, people are pretty okay with it. They obviously fought it, and 2022's movies won't get HBO Max day and date releases, but they were able to at least try to make people happy behind the scenes, where Disney just like, well, we got to make money on this, and we got to put it on digital. So that wasn't part of the original contract, and they weren't able to get the money that they deserve. So I think we're all on Scarlett's side to fight Disney.
Yeah.
Will she
I mean,
succeed is another story.
I know, but if she doesn't, we're really screwed when it comes to
Yeah.
Contracts won't be worth much. I mean, they're already getting pretty shaky, but we would have. I mean, that really protects people when they work, and if they can just weasel out of money over something like this, you'll. It's just going to be bad.
Well, I mean, Disney's already been more money grubby in the past week because with stuff with Disney World where you're gonna have to pay even more money to attend certain things, and that skip the line system is going to be even more expensive than it already was. So I mean,
Yeah, it
I
just
don't know if
sounds like seems like Bob Chapek is a bean counter.
I mean, yes.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, we always kind of forget with movies and video games that it is a business, and business is first. So, it's one of those things where they need to make money off of this, or else they're not going to continue making it. They're not making the Marvel movies because they like to. They're making it because it's profitable. And profit drives everything, and it's always part of the game. It's Hollywood. It's show business, not show art. So
Hmm.
I understand Disney's point of view. I don't agree with it. I think they should have cut the deal when the same time they announced the thing. But I understand the business in a degree. In
Hmm.
a general idea, I understand the business motives behind this. I don't agree with it, but it is
Yeah.
what it is.
Well, I think part of it is there was a change in leadership at Disney, and probably Chapek didn't know all the stuff dealing with Scarlett Johansson and how she what she had to endure under
Bob
Putterman
Iger.
and and Bob Iger just and the merch. I mean, she didn't get a good cut of merch because Ike Putterman didn't think anybody would buy Black Widow merch.
Which is dumb.
Yeah,
Mm.
that's why there was so much unauthorized Black Widow merch at every print to sell website on the internet.
Well, I mean, I think it's mainly stemming from all the Star Wars, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker merch because historically that hasn't sold very well, and he probably based that, well, it's because it stars Rey, a female, versus, well, these movies just aren't good.
Yeah, and the fan base doesn't want that stuff, and the general populace wants the original trilogy stuff.
Yes, I still want the original trilogy on 4K. That's uncut.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole other story with Lucas. But yeah.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah. One thing I will add about the whole Star Wars thing and Lucas, I don't care that he changed the movies. What I cared about is he tried to obliterate the previous versions.
So I know some people are saying, "Well, what do I care?" So if a millionaire fights with $1 billion corporation, why should I care? Well, you should care because look, actors don't just do it for the art; they do it for the money too. And I know it sounds like I'm siding with the millionaires, but the thing is, when you live that lifestyle, you're expecting to have that lifestyle continue to a degree. And just because you made $5 million on this movie or that movie doesn't mean you have to plan that out. You have to plan for the mansion and the cars, expensive lifestyle you're already used to, and you need to keep getting those paychecks and keep getting X amount, or else you'll go broke. Which a lot of different movie stars go broke because they don't handle their finances correctly, and that's why they have these contracts to make sure that they can have that stable income. Because art and movies is quite a fickle place where one day you'll be hot and next day you're cold and no one wants to touch you and you're not going to make any movies or TV shows or whatever, and you could be totally screwed, right pretty quickly. So you have to protect yourself.
I mean,
And our apocalypse has made it even worse.
do you think this is going to have a ripple effect in Hollywood, not just for ScarJo? Like, do you think that she'll be blacklisted from other movie studios? And then do you think people's going to be afraid of suing major Hollywood studios because of a lack of back pay?
I think she might get a little bit of a gray list, not a full blacklist, and I think the studios are going to scramble with streaming language and contracts.
I mean, they should have already kind of sort of done that, but I get it.
They probably thought they could slide a few years before the unions got involved.
Yeah, I think it also depends how the final product, the final resolution to the lawsuit ends, which I still think pretty concrete there that Scarlett's going to win and they're just going to have to eat it up and shut up. But yeah, I do think there might be some retaliation there, and it might be some, but also one of those things where it was also the end of Scarlett Johansson's career in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't think there was going to be a Black Widow 2 or a cameo for that character again. I think that was it. I naturally don't think. So might as well get your money now before it's gone forever.
I mean, yeah. I mean, she still probably is going to receive money for a long time for all the movies she was in the Black Widow universe, whatever. Like all the Marvel movies she was in, she's probably going to get residuals forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's not going to be the same as actual being inside Avengers 5 or whatever.
I mean, right.
So we have another controversy with another character here, with Shang-Chi. Jake, do you know anything about this story or no?
Yeah, the star of Shang-Chi, which I can't remember his name, but he was very upset that his movie was called experimental and pretty much told Disney to F themselves.
Classic Jake, do you have more to elaborate on that?
Yeah, I mean, this is Bob Chapek again. He's a bean counter, and he was just like, "Oh, we're just throwing it out there," and and Sima was just like, "F you."
I mean, to be fair, I would take offense to it too because the Asian film thing hasn't really been like they've been kind of downplayed. It was like Asian movies don't do well at the box office. That's why it's considered experimental, which it really sucks.
Yeah, I mean, we've had a couple of flukes.
Yeah, like Crazy Rich Asians, probably for recent example. Huge hit.
Yeah.
And also
Yeah, and Aquafina has become a big deal.
But I mean, I get what Bob Chapek was saying because Free Guy and Shang-Chi were quote unquote experimental because it's 45 days until it hits digital services, but he should have worded it better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can understand how it blew up and why it blew up because, that's his career. And, I assume that he did a great job. I haven't seen the movie yet. But, you don't want your boss to say, well, we're just experimenting with this movie. And it just sounds bad. And I don't think it was really intended that way, but he should have phrased things better. And
yeah. And Disney's already kind of irritating the Chinese already. So this just adds to it.
Yeah.
Because Disney actually had to, and Marvel had to say specifically, no Fu Manchu in this movie. That whole storyline is out, because they're worried that China's going to say, no, we're not going to have it here. And because China, ultimately, the Chinese government gets to decide what movies go out in China. And if they decide no, well, if they're pissed already before it comes out, and they're like, oh, this is going to be racist, Western crap, we're not going to release it, then that's a huge amount of money they can't make in China. And so
they also they've even had a small controversy with the movie yet again because there's instead of Mongolian lettering in the rings, it's been converted to Mandarin, if I'm not mistaken, Mandarin Chinese into the ring, which comic book fans are still kind of steamed over because it's like, oh, it's Disney's pretty much just submitting to China.
I don't think China cares about this in particular, but I do know they do care about the Mandarin. I mean, I know comic book fans are going to be mad at me, but I'm sorry, he's a racist character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where I understand the change. They also changed the rings. They're not actual like finger rings. They're arm bands. You know,
They're bracelets.
they're different kind of
Yeah.
rings.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to differentiate them from Thanos' even though it's a glove, not rings. They also might have thought they can't sell rings to little boys.
So
maybe.
So I kind of worry that, I think Disney and Marvel were like, okay, why they brought Shang-Chi back for this movie is that they want to experiment and have different things. It can't all be, super duper Western Iron Man, characters like that. They want to have, more a diverse idea and diverse characters. And I applaud them for that. I was worried before Black Panther came out that it wouldn't do well. And I was imagining that it would, I imagine that some Disney people were very hesitant to even make a Black Panther movie, but they did, yep. And I'm glad for it. And I'm definitely glad for this movie. And, there is a diverse selection of Marvel characters, and experimenting and having a kung fu movie when everything else has been pretty much standard, to a degree sci-fi, comic book style. They have experimented with some spy stuff with Black Widow and Winter Soldier, but still, this is outside of their comfort zone. And, Marvel wants to expand out and have this change up and have these different characters for a new phase. And, it's like, okay, we're going to try to have different kinds of people because we have a big selection and we want to get a big, wider audience and make things different. They can't all the stories have Iron Man in it or Hulk. They can have different characters, and that's how you keep things fresh. So I understand it. Why some of the ideas behind Marvel, why they want to do Shang-Chi, and having the whole being an experiment it sounds bad. It sounds like, well, you're just doing it because you want to make money in China, and we're experimenting. That it sounds bad. I understand Disney. I hate to always kind of side with Disney, but I also
okay. There's another thing going on here too about China and Disney. Okay, China traditionally only allowed like maybe a dozen Western movies into their market a year. And what Disney used to do is, and the way to get around this is you can make a movie in China and it doesn't count as one of those dozen movies. So what Disney would do is they would do a local production, co-production, shelve it so it wouldn't get released, or it would only get released on home video in Asia. And then they would slot one of their Western movies like Little Mermaid or whatever into that slot they created with the co-production that they maybe spent upwards of 4 or 5 million US for. And they really hurt some careers pulling that stunt a few times.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that you're going to go with like Disney doing what Nintendo, what video game makers did with Nintendo in the 80s. New Jake, you probably know about this, where Nintendo only allowed X amount of games to be released on the Nintendo Entertainment System. And so with each company to try to avoid a bunch of junk on the system, so a bunch of different companies made these shell companies and released more games that way, so that way they could release things. There's always ways around things to get your business done. So, yeah, Disney is fumbling the ball here and messing up some things that really shouldn't be messing up with. They should be smarter than this. They should know what to say and how to handle things. So Disney, I understand what Disney's doing, but I don't agree with it.
Yeah,
and it's just kind of dumb.
They're kind of out of control because their response to Scarlett Johansson's lawsuit sounded like some toxic game developer.
Yeah.
A chill from a certain developer, a certain
wizard? Yeah, I could hear him. I could hear it in his voice.
But
That statement.
do you think the response for the shareholders, like the stockholders, whatever, for Disney, do you think this will be a way to force Chapek out potentially with his troublesome remarks,
Maybe.
or his
It's
kind of
that's a serious possibility.
because he's only been in the for like what, a year, if that.
Yeah, I mean, and Iger was around. I think they're wishing they kept Iger around longer.
Yeah, I think it just kind of depends on the results of the movies. If this controversy kind of, makes Shang-Chi into not as big of a hit because people are like, well, I don't want to see it because of Disney, or I'll wait, 45 days and watch it Disney Plus instead, or whatever. If it impacts the sales, which I have no idea how Shang-Chi is going to do, I imagine it's going to be a success because, hey, it's a Marvel movie and it's a newer property, newer to most people. I think most people don't know Shang-Chi. If you walk down the street randomly and say, "Do you know who Shang-Chi is?" they won't know. So compared to if you walk down the street, "Hey, do you know who Iron Man is?" And like, "Oh yeah, of course." So it might hurt and it might not. I think it might be the shareholders might wait a couple more months and then decide if they were really pissed and if things are different. But yeah, it's Disney's making these stupid mistakes and they need to get their act together, and it's just dumb. This lawsuit shouldn't have happened, and this experiment thing could have been handled better. It's just unforced errors that are damning the Disney, and you worry about the future of Marvel Cinematic Universe if things are just are falling apart now and cracking now. Are we gonna get to Avengers 5 eventually? I don't know.
Yeah, and it looks like James Gunn, after he does Guardians 3, he's done at Marvel.
Going back to DC and hopefully making good movies.
Yeah.
All right, let's continue on with that to something a little bit more fun. A Blu-ray got announced. Robot Monster 3D. I don't know what this is.
Woohoo! This is one of the great trash movies of all time.
Better
Phil
than
Tucker. This is considered, some people consider this the worst movie ever made.
Okay.
And I'm almost ashamed at how many times I've seen this movie.
I've never even heard of it.
Oh God, I've seen this in 3D and on the big screen dozens of times. This is an awesomely bad movie. This is like the first fan sci-fi movie ever made. And it shows. Yeah, Phil Tucker became a 3D filmmaker based on the GI Bill. Because he was a veteran. Ed Wood got into filmmaking. And they both have a very similar style of filmmaking.
Awful.
But compelling. You will be... Phil Tucker movies are not boring. Some of his other... he did a movie with Lenny Bruce, Dance Hall Racket.
Oh, no.
I'm just saying, I'm a big fan, and I can't wait for this release. And the 3D is awesome, too.
So, the 3D Film Archive, our friends there, are going to be making it because they got way more than the money they asked for on their Kickstarter. They asked for 10 grand and they got 60. And they still have hours to go, so it may even get more than 60. But yeah, they're gonna make this into a 3D Blu-ray, and this is a 1957 or 19 around there movie. The pictures of this look ridiculous. It looks like an ape with a robot head.
Roman is basically an ape with a diving helmet.
Oh, that sounds like a SpongeBob episode almost.
Yeah, and it's George Barrow, who is a guy in Hollywood who made his own gorilla suit, and he had a career just playing a man in a gorilla suit. Sometimes it's supposed to actually be a gorilla. Sometimes just a case like this where he just takes the gorilla head off and wears a diving helmet.
Jesus.
This looks like a kind of movie that Mystery Science Theater, which they did do, actually had a review of because it's so cheesy, corny kind of movie. They released this a couple years ago. So they did Robot Monster. They didn't watch it in 3D. I don't think they did. But yeah, this is like that kind of caliber bad movie, but fun bad, right?
Yeah, this is a Sharknado of the 3D, of the golden age of 3D.
Okay.
Okay, cool. So, Classic Jake, you're excited for this, obviously.
Oh yeah, let's hope they get Catwoman on the moon.
All right, let's keep going here. We got so we got these deals that with Warner Brothers and AMC. So for 2022, they're going to have a 45-day window, which now I think is becoming industry standard, that you get a theatrical run of 45 days. After that, it'll go on to HBO Max or Disney or whatever. So now AMC has that with WB movies coming out next year, 2022. So makes sense. Now, obviously, the theatrical landscape in 2022 is going to be very different than it is now. But hey, the theaters are getting their deals and they're clawing back their timed exclusives for now.
Yeah, things are changing. Like I've said, this is movie theaters are facing the same threat arcades faced when real gaming systems got released.
Yeah.
It was really hard to justify going to the arcade to play Mortal Kombat 2 when you could buy it at home in Genesis.
Yep.
So it's one of those things where it became really expensive in the arcades, and then hey, you could just buy it for $50 and have it and have more, better quality experience and not have to go. So that's why Super Nintendo and Genesis really started to hit, because you could get basically, when the the 3DO released with all the actual arcade ports, after that point, you didn't get that many good arcade games. You probably got some here and there, but still, you could get a better experience at home with, starting in the Super Nintendo time and keep going after that. So, yeah, I imagine theaters are no longer the best place to always see a movie. I've had some better experiences watching stuff at home on a Blu-ray than I have watching it in the theater sometimes. Sometimes theaters mess up the projection, where the Blu-ray always works. Or, it's one of those things where it's no longer that bad to watch a movie at home, where, 50, 20, 30 years ago, it was pretty bad to watch a VHS at home compared to the theater. Now, watching a 4K disc at home, that's pretty nice. So, yeah, I agree with Classic Jake that it's going to be rough going for theaters, and which leads us nicely to our next segue, which is movie theater owners are not opposed to vaccine mandates. So there was a big hubbub in America with vaccine passports, and now it's starting to come back around where people are like, yeah, let's do that, and let's do that for movie theaters, so that way people feel more comfortable. Now, I've been in the theaters, and I've seen a lot of people without masks on. I feel comfortable not wearing my mask when I'm in the theater, but walking around the lobby and stuff, I'll put my mask on, no problem. I'm vaccinated, so... What are you guys' thoughts on vaccine mandates to see the movie theaters?
I mean, it's common sense.
Yeah.
Of course, there's other people who don't agree with that, but it's just common sense. You're ruining the fun for everybody by not being vaccinated because your quote unquote freedoms are being violated.
Yeah, and movie going is a family affair, and there aren't vaccines for children yet.
Right.
So parents are thinking, do I really want to put my kids at risk for somebody shows up with free dumb on their mind and gets my kid sick.
Yeah.
Plus, it's expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, what I'm expecting to happen, which I think is inevitable, is that someone will get COVID from going to a theater, and they'll have that connection, and that's going to just ruin the market for theaters, because they say they're cleaning out the theaters after each movie, but there's going to be some idiot that goes to the theater with COVID and just sneezes and coughs everywhere, and other people get COVID, and that's when they figure out where they got it from, and it's the theater, and damn, then everything falls apart because no one's going to want to go to the theaters anymore, and that's going to be a big news event. And I think that's going to happen. Some point now, before the end of 2021, it's going to happen. May not be in America, maybe it's in other part of the world, but I just imagine that is inevitable. And movie theater owners are terrified of that idea, because they're starting to get people come back, but, which leads another segue, numbers are not that good for 2021. We've been open in America for almost all the year, and the numbers are worse than 2020. Worse. So, that's awful. And 2020, they understood, we're closed, and for most of the time, and they only had a couple releases. But when 2021 is still worse, yeah, theater owners are pissed, and we're like, hey, we're putting all this money and trying to do stuff, and hey, if you get COVID and you walk in the theater and infect other people are going to get mad. So it's not a good time to be a theater owner.
Well, they should up their game, because my experiences since they reopened after shutting down, they're worse. Presentation sucks, pretty much. They have less employees, and the tickets are substantially higher, and the concessions are substantially higher. So they sort of, and there's a few chains doing things like $5 for second run movies that you can rent at Redbox or rent online for cheaper. So I don't know how that's going to work out for them.
The mandates is also going to be something impossible to. I don't know how they actually do that. How do you implement that? Because are you going to have people have their card and you have to see the card before you buy a ticket? Well, a lot of people forging those cards right now. So,
people buying tickets online. How are you going to make them show? Into stuff. They have so few employees, how are they going to enforce?
Yeah. So that's where it gets really hairy, because, okay, cool, this, Regal or AMC or Cinemark, okay, theaters, you have to have a COVID vaccine to watch a movie. Well, that's going to be a lot of people that don't get vaccines going to get really pissed, and they're going to protest and make a big hubbub on Facebook. And can a theater really, do that and, expect not to be a big blowback? I agree, it's common sense. I understand that, they don't want to get sued from later on somebody, getting sick from a theater experience, but it's also, you're also putting yourself out there to basically be screwed, either way.
Yeah, things are going to get interesting, that's for sure.
So right now, I have some numbers here. 2021 so far, maybe a couple weeks out, has made $1,053,000,000, and in 2020 it made $1,800,000,000. So that's a decrease. And
yeah, and one Marvel movie used to bring in box office like that.
Yeah.
Is that worldwide or just domestic?
Worldwide.
So those numbers are scary, and they're pretty big difference. Now, we don't know exactly how much money different places have made. I know Disney has said that certain movies have made good money on Disney Premiere, but some of those digital releases, we don't know how much of that is making them enough money because they don't want to publicly release that unless it's really big. So I don't know if HBO Max is really hurting certain movies or not. I don't know.
I mean, Suicide Squad, definitely.
Hmm. Yeah, we're probably going to see a downturn in film production. I think the days of the big budget, high special effect blockbuster may be winding down.
Yeah, and I think that is an indicator. Obviously, we're in a weird spot because 2021, vast majority of the movies were 2020 movies that got delayed.
Hmm.
So a lot of these movies are just kind of sitting in the vault, ready to go whenever they're done. But they're done. I mean, they're just ready to get theatrical released. So we haven't gone to making 2022 movies or 2021 movies yet. They've already made some and finished wrapping up on some, but to start planning for 2022 and 2023, those plans are probably start getting halted or putting the brakes on those plans for the future because movies take years to make. Even if you fast track things, you could get lucky and get it done in a year and during the best of times. But most of the time, it takes 2 to 3 years to make a movie, to shoot it, to edit it, to get it up, and that time with COVID throws everything out of whack. And if you don't have a guarantee that you're going to make a good amount of box office, then why bother making a movie that costs $700 million to make? And if you can't guarantee that you'll make $1.5 billion from it, that's the future.
Probably see a return of with the mid-range movies. The stuff that's under 20 million.
Yeah, mid-range is going to be a big deal next couple of years because I can't imagine spending a lot. And small range stuff, that's going to go directly to digital. I guarantee you that.
Heck, some of this mid-range stuff is going to digital, or it gets a 2-week release, and then because that's what Amazon did with Annette.
Yeah.
So yeah, Amazon and Netflix and Apple, they're going to be buying up the small stuff, the stuff that's cheap, that is $1 or $2 million to make.
Oh heck, one of them might even buy Sony.
Yeah. Which leads us to our next segue. Classic Jake, what is the segue about Sony?
Let's see. I'm just looking here on the list. I am having brain death here, Adolf.
All right, Hotel Transylvania 4 to skip theaters from Sony.
I forgot that damn movie was a Sony movie. I actually kind of try to forget it even exists. But yeah, they took $100 million payday to release it on Amazon.
That seems awful cheap.
Yeah, but I don't know what business the third one did.
I think it made.
I refuse to see it.
It did pretty big in 2018. I think it was still over $100 million. Like each one of those was $100 million hit, and they're fairly cheap.
So the total box office for Hotel Transylvania 3 was $528 million.
Yeah, $500 million purchase. I mean, this one doesn't have Adam Sandler, so that's probably why they got it for relatively cheaper than give us $400 million and we'll sell it to you.
Yeah.
So domestically, Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation made $167 million. International 360, so a total of 528. This is from Box Office Mojo. And the budget, I can't imagine the budget being that high. I don't know the budget for sure, but being animated, I imagine it not being that high. So $500 million worldwide for the third movie. So selling it for $100 million is pretty big. And also, it's not going to make money. It's going to just be advertisement for Amazon Prime. Hey, we got this movie, we got this movie, we got this movie. Come to Amazon Prime, get your movies here, buy your stuff here, whatever. It's the business side. This is just a get. This is get people in to see. Oh, you want to see the Tomorrow War? Amazon Prime. Oh, do you want to see Cinderella 2021? Amazon Prime. Oh, do you want to see Hotel Transylvania 4? Transylvania? Go on Amazon Prime. That's the point. The point is not to make money on this. The point is to get people to come to Amazon.
Who want to see those movies, though?
Well, there's always people that want to see movies, and being the fourth movie, people know what to expect from the Hotel Transylvania franchise, and I established IP and IP with characters, with actors, is always going to be profitable. People know what Cinderella is. People know what Hotel Transylvania is, even if they haven't seen this version of Cinderella, and they know if they like Chris Pratt, even if they don't know about the Tomorrow War, which, by the way, sucks. I hate that movie.
Thanks for the warning.
I reviewed that for the patrons, but yeah, it's so God knows if we're ever going to get this on 3D Blu-ray. If the 3D version exists, which I'm probably sure maybe have, who knows if we'll ever see it, right?
Just keep an eye out in Germany. That's where it's most likely apt to show up.
Keeping an eye on Australia because they've been where they got Jumanji 3 in 3D. I'm keeping an eye on Australia too.
Wow. Yeah, and I'd also keep an eye on Asia because the Crouching Tiger sequel got a 3D release in Asia.
I always forget there's a Crouching Tiger sequel until you mention it.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that was a Netflix movie, but
yep, and it got a 3D release in Asia.
So going back to Hotel Transylvania 4. Obviously, none of us were excited for that movie, right?
Yeah, we've dodged a bullet because we don't have to review it. Of course, I don't think we would have because you had a complete staff revolt. We all refused to watch it.
New Jake would have done it.
Yeah, I'd take a bullet. I have to review Addams Family too.
So there's more interesting parts to this besides us hating this movie. Specifically, they said that they've been Sony said they're looking for alternatives to releasing it in box office for about a year now. So they already were ready to dump it. And two, that because they specifically say the Delta variant of COVID and no vaccines available for children under 12, they didn't have confidence it could make its money back, so they were ready to sell it. So COVID right there being a main contributor to a movie going from theatrical to now having a digital only release. And Amazon Prime is available worldwide, I think, right? Basically, besides China and some countries that refuse to censor things. I think Malaysia maybe, I don't know. But yeah, did Hotel Transylvania 3 Summer Vacation ever get a 3D Blu-ray release, New Jake?
No, just the digital on Vudu only. There's been I guess gray market disc being made from streams such as the Vudu, but never an official 3D release.
So on a disc. Yeah, so getting an official 3D Blu-ray release of this is very unlikely. We'll see. Sony still has the rights to distribute it, physically and having that. But it's going to be on Amazon Prime, and obviously, I wouldn't be surprised if they have, Amazon to, as an exclusive thing to order to buy the disc version. That might be something they do, but we may
stores probably before Christmas, honestly.
Yeah, or they might pull an exclusive window and then general release.
Yeah.
Now, with Vudu and Fandango now merging and things changing, have they said anything about 3D streaming in the future, or is that still happening? Do you know?
I mean, they still got the titles on there, but I haven't seen anything new in like a couple of years, so I don't know, honestly.
And Vudu used to be owned by Walmart, and then got bought up by Fandango. So that might be something to look into, because that's currently Vudu is the only place you can stream 3D in America, right?
There's VR,
Yeah,
Okay.
and it's not really developed yet. It's still kind of in its infancy, but it seems like people are liking VR because it's got affordable.
yeah.
I guess Vudu might be the biggest place you could find 3D movies to stream in America.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
Legally.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this does signal something. Are we going to get more animated movies toward kids getting pushed back to 2022 and or get digital release because of this? Is this going to be the canary in the coal mine that gives everyone a go, let's get this to Netflix, let's get this to Apple, let's get this to whatever, Paramount?
I mean, I know MGM is keeping the day for Adam's Family too, but they've also announced that it's also going to be available to stream on premium services. So I guess like Vudu for probably like $30 to rent or whatever. So it's already kind of seeing the rippling effects.
Mm-hmm. We'll see, because that depends on what Adam's Family 2 does, the box office.
Yeah.
Now, we got something interesting there with Paw Patrol coming out this weekend, and it's, I guess, a success. I mean, it looks like it's going to make maybe $13 million for the weekend, which obviously Paw Patrol is garnered toward the smaller kids. But there are definitely people that appreciate Paw Patrol that are older. But it's definitely a animated movie for kids, and Paramount just went ahead and released it. Now, we don't have a release date for Clifford. That got pushed to who knows when. So maybe that's going to get, a digital release somewhere. But Adam's Family, you're right. They did say that they're interested, but they can't really do a move because they have like all these other agreements with toys and such, which
Right.
that's what happened with Trolls World Tour last year, that they had to release it because they had all these other arrangement with toys and movies and whatever, and
But how did Universal do that with Minions 2, I guess, technically? Because I've been seeing their toys for 2 years. They're still they're at Dollar Tree, but they're still producing stuff, and that movie got delayed till next year, so it's been on hold for 2 years. How did they get away with
They had the stuff was already produced. It was too far in the pipeline.
it? Yeah.
So other animated movies that might get pushed into digital, The Ron's Gone Wrong, that might get pushed to digital. Who knows?
Yeah.
Or Enchanto.
Yeah, Enchanto might. Rumble.
Well, Rumble got pushed already to next year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I wouldn't be surprised if it goes to digital and we don't get it in 3D.
Oh, the 3D trailer was so pretty. I'm kind of sad about that, even though the movie looked like crap.
Yeah.
They've been heavily advertising Sing 2. I don't think that's going to get pushed into streaming. I think they want that to be in the theaters. Sing made a ton of money, and that's coming out right before Christmas. So I think Sing is pretty much locked in. But Ron's Gone Home, hell yeah, that's probably going to go on Disney Plus, unless there's some kind of contracts or something that stop it.
Yeah. I mean, Disney's probably not let that one go to streaming just yet. It might get pushed to next year, but who knows?
Yeah, and I think Encanto is, you gotta see how things are between now and November, because things aren't looking good. But I know a lot of people on Pixar were really pissed that Luca didn't get a theatrical release. So
Yeah.
Or at least here.
Luca is a pretty great movie, though. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I need to see that movie still.
Again, another thing you can see on our Patreon. I reviewed that, and so if you want to go on our Patreon and get to have our review. But yeah, I think, I don't know for sure what's coming out in 2022 animated wise, but this might be something to think about. it's something that studios and corporate heads are really considering, because who knows when a COVID vaccine for kids are going to go up. I mean, there's a lot of really bad COVID kid stories going around that kids are dying from it and getting seriously ill from it, where kids weren't getting that ill from it last year. This year, it is a big deal, and that might be a big consideration for future animated movies and specifically kids movies like Clifford.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a plus in that case.
Or we might see, well, right now, animation's the easiest thing to do because you don't have to be on set together to create an animated movie. We might see more adult animation or teen-driven instead of younger children because of the marketplace being damaged, because parents aren't going to want to take their smalls to the theater and put them at risk of getting the Delta variant of COVID.
Yeah. And, I think people gotten used to having animated adult stuff now. So I think that's not too hard to imagine that more teen-related stuff is going to coming. I think Harley Quinn's a pretty big hit. That's an animated movie. What's that Amazon animated superhero movie? There's a TV show.
Invincible.
Oh, and South Park is evergreen.
Yeah, like there are more movies. Like they did like movies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we need another South Park cinematic adventure.
So definitely they could do animated voiceovers over Skype or Teams or whatever, Zoom, whatever, FaceTime, whatever streaming online services they want to use for, chats. They can definitely do that. And I think for the most part, they could probably get really good quality, if not equally good quality as going to a studio, but not exactly the same. But obviously, that's going to be easier to do than a big budget blockbuster. So we might get some more animated movies for teens in the next year or two. Some of this is still going to be in flux because 2022 movies are going to be 2021 movies, and 2022 is going to still be some 2020 movies, and we're not going to get to a normal movie theater schedule of when it's supposed to come out for probably 23, I think, now, maybe. Who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I imagine a whole lot of stuff's been halted production because it's like they don't know if their box office is there or not.
Yeah. So we got another Sony movie news with Venom slipping from September to October.
That's fine. That was the timeline for the original film 3 years ago, so I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and it's more into the spooky season, so it may actually help the box office.
And possibly rated R. It kind of looks like it's gonna be. So
yeah, it might be.
I mean, it's gonna have to compete with. I think it's opening up the same day as Halloween Kills, so it might cannibalize.
Yeah, and the last Halloween did surprisingly well theatrically.
Yeah, but it's also cheap as hell too to make.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and it was pretty good.
Yeah, this one looks even better.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Venom is now scheduled for October 15th, 2021. As we said before, this might change again, but it was originally scheduled for September 24th or 25th, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So 2 weeks, who cares? It's still that big a deal.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed it stays with the date. I've been wanting to see it.
Yeah.
And this is confirmed 3D. They've not been shy about releasing 3D in the trailers and the posters, where other movies have been very shy about putting real 3D or watching in 3D. So definitely a 3D movie.
Mm.
Yep.
Hopefully it's good in 3D.
Yep.
So Yeah, it's gotten pushed back a couple times, but looks like October 18th, 15th
Yeah,
is pretty decent.
yeah, yeah. This
Yeah,
time for sure, and we should be used to date changes by now.
yeah. I'm just glad it's like a couple week change instead of like us got delayed for a full year.
Yeah, I'm kind of over that.
Yeah,
I'm
like I'm
still
still.
really have a feeling in my gut that we're gonna have an avalanche soon. That other movies are gonna go, and once one big movie goes, everything else will follow suit. So
Hmm.
James Bond can't afford it anymore, so I think that's gonna stick. So it's gonna have to be something on the same level as that.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to watch it. But now we also got a new trailer for Venom, which actually I'm getting more excited about. Which I was very not interested in the first movie, or I didn't like the movie as much as everyone else did. So
Really,
yeah, I did not like it.
the 3D wasn't great, but such a good movie.
Um,
Yeah, how could you hate Tom Hardy eating raw lobster sitting in a lobster tank?
yeah, it was too cringy for me. But the newest trailer does look good. What do you guys thoughts of the newer trailer? Newest.
It
Yep.
looks good.
Hmm.
I mean, I was already sold. I was going to see it regardless because I loved the first movie. But
We got a new trailer for or the final trailer for the Eternals.
mm-hmm. Looks I actually know what it's going to be about now.
Yeah. And we got an explanation why they didn't show up in Endgame.
Yeah, that's a good save. That was pretty clever on their part.
Hmm.
Way to go,
Yeah.
Chloe, for directing
Uh
and
huh.
writing.
Yeah, and the deviants looked really interesting.
Yeah,
I mean,
They did something interesting with them, and then we got to see the Eternals. We got to see some of their powers.
yeah,
I give them credit for addressing it, but I also think it's very weak and lame. Well, we weren't told to protect, whatever. He's a threat to the universe. You should protect,
No, they were only told if it had to deal with the deviants, so they didn't do anything they didn't have to do.
and Thanos was also wasn't he an Eternal at one point, or
In
was
yeah.
he?
the comics, yeah, he's also got, and they keep changing whether he's a deviant or got the deviant gene, but not really a deviant in the comics.
Okay,
They're not robots. They could change their opinion, and I hope that's part of the movie. Why some of them were interested in helping, and maybe we get some scenes behind the scenes that we didn't see or know about.
yeah.
Maybe they helped Doctor Strange get people for the portals or something. Who knows? I hope that's in the movie because I still feel it's a lame excuse for not being helping with half the universe being on the line.
I mean, they're higher beings. I mean, I won't say gods, but they are higher beings with superpowers who probably have people who are mightier than them to
Hmm.
tell them can't do this, even though
Yeah,
you want.
and they might just regard humans as ants. I mean,
Yeah, if the someone's like, yeah, I came here and I really love these people. I'm like, okay,
we're pets to them.
yeah,
I'm more interested in it, but I still kind of feel like the tone is weird in this movie. Like I don't know if I'm excited for it.
well, I mean, it doesn't look like it's going to be your traditional like comic book MCU movie per se. I mean, like there's still going to be big
Yeah,
CGI fights, of course,
yeah.
but
Well, the Eternals are this kind of trippy cosmic thing, which Kirby was really into in this time period in his career.
it seems like a subdued Guardians of the Galaxy where you got one quirky character, but then the rest are kind of more serious and
Yeah,
but
it does look like they're leaning into kind of the James Gunn formula.
but visually it looks great because I was reading up on it. It looks like they hardly used green screen at all. It was like all shot on location. So hopefully this leads a change into the MCU being not filmed in a studio for the most part
Yeah.
because
Well,
the movie looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one thing that the Disney's probably going to start really implementing, they did this for The Mandalorian, and I think other places are copying them, like Star Trek, where they have basically a green screen or actual LED screen behind them, and that shows like an environment. So that way they're not playing against a green screen. They actually see like an environment there, kind of like how in the olden days they had a matte painting there. Now they have a LED screen that shows what is supposed to be in that background, and they've been able to make shots where they're actually, a background, or it's a screen, but you can't really notice that when you're watching it on TV or whatever. But it's mixed into the background so well that you actually get better performances. So maybe it's some of that. I don't think so, because this movie was probably made a couple years ago, and it's that this movie has been delayed because of COVID. So, but that's definitely a new technique that wasn't around before, where they could have actual screens. I mean, I think Star Trek Next Generation had like actual. I remember reading about this or hearing about this. I don't know how much of it was true, but they actually had like drapes that had the stars. So that way, when they're performing in like a room, they would actually have the stars back there. So it's not just they didn't have to redo it later in post. They actually had a drape with curtains with stars on it.
Well, I mean, that seems cheaper anyway, because I really only noticed like green screen or blue screen elements when they're in the holodeck.
Yeah. So, I'm more excited for Eternals now, but I'm still hesitant about it because I don't know these characters.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're familiar with the comics at all, you're going to be really excited. But if you've never heard of them, you're just going to kind of go, huh? And it also depends on your interest in Chloe as a filmmaker.
I mean, I'm interested because Nomadland
Nomadland was awesome.
But like, I'm not a huge fan of Angelina Jolie. She's very stiff. I mean, in the trailer, I guess she seems okay, but she just, as a performer, she's usually fairly stiff seeming.
I feel she's uneven. Like some movies I love her in, some movies I hate her in.
Like Girl Interrupted, which won her Oscar, great, but like Laura Croft, kind of stiff.
Yeah, but I don't even know if she's a major character.
I mean, fair.
Well, she's one of the Eternals, so we'll see how that.
Yeah.
How they die or don't die, or how that works. If they're gonna have them always on screen together, or I don't know what the plot is. It just said that they're protecting against the deviants, and we have some showing of different deviants, but I don't know who those deviants are, so I don't know what's going on.
And and they're going to be fighting a celestial because it looks like the snapshot triggered the energy release was enough to birth a celestial. So, because I mean, the trailer said that's going to be the big thing, that they're going to be trying to save Earth from being devoured by a celestial being born.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I was kind of hoping it would kind of involve X-Men characters. I thought that was going to be like a Galactus.
Yeah, exactly. Because Galactus plays in on this ecosystem.
Right. I thought that was Galactus in the trailer. Then I got digging around, and I'm like, oh, it's not Galactus. I was kind of hoping maybe it'll introduce X-Men that way, but doesn't look like it's going to be that way.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but was it the one they showed, the same one that was like destroying a planet in Guardians of the Galaxy with the Power Stone, Infinity Gem, whatever?
It could be. It also looked very similar to the one that was in Thor.
Yeah.
I mean, the one in Thor is the same one in Guardians 2, I think it was. Also in, was it Infinity War that it showed up in as well? Or Endgame?
So.
Yeah. Because I know it's been in the series since at least Thor 2.
All right, we got one final fun little story here with talking about Top Gun Maverick, which I don't know if it's a 3D movie or not because Top Gun got re-released in 3D, and I would definitely be excited for it being 3D because I think all those aerial shots would look incredible.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, so many IMAX cameras in the cockpit, so I'm sure a 3D conversion is doable.
I mean, they did do Mission Impossible, so maybe I think there's someone that is working on it. I don't know, but Tom Cruise actually wanted to fly a jet, and the Navy said no.
I mean, he is a trained pilot. I mean, give kudos to Tom Cruise. He knows how to fly a plane and do an action scene, but can we trust him with a $500 million fighter jet?
Yeah,
I'm like saying, it's one thing having a pilot's license. Does he have a license for is he certified for a $500 million jet? Because exactly.
I mean, the insurance. I'm sure Paramount would be quaking in their boots if that thing got destroyed and they were on the line for $500 million.
Oh yeah, and Tom Cruise is dead. I mean, not only are movie fans going to be slightly upset, but I'm sure the Church of Scientology will have some words for him too.
Yeah.
I give Tom Cruise credit here because he is willing to go 110% and do his own stunts and do it, fly his own plane and do everything for the movie. And I give him credit as an actor. I know I disagree with him on Scientology, and I think he's a little bit crazy, but we're all a little bit crazy. But I definitely respect the hell out of him as an actor.
Yeah.
He's not really so much as an actor anymore as he is performer.
Yeah, I mean, he's kind of entering Jackie Chan territory now.
I mean, yes, but he's not really. I mean, he's a better actor than Jackie Chan, but he's not a great actor. He's been good and stuff, but he's never been like, hey,
he was really good in American Made, which made no money.
Yeah, sad.
Mm-hmm.
Like whenever he does interesting projects, he's usually pretty good, but nobody sees them because they're not Mission Impossible.
Exactly.
I just respect the hell out of that. He's, willing to do the stunts and, he broke, his leg and he's actually jumped on the jet and done all these things that most actors in good conscience are okay to say, stuntman, do that, not me. And he does it. He actually does these things.
I mean, he also inspires actors in his movies to be like, you could do this live. I got confidence in you. It'll make it look better on the screen. You should do it. And they usually do it.
Yeah.
Like Simon Pegg, he didn't want to be in the car with Tom Cruise whenever he's doing all those car stunts, but he did it anyway, and it makes it look better. And you could tell that it's done in camera. It's not CGI. It's not camera trickery.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's gonna look great in 50 years.
Yes.
I mean, I think Top Gun Maverick will definitely look great because they have a lot of that actual camera work in the jets. It's not CG jets,
And it's IMAX cameras. And, I mean, it could be in 3D because Joseph Kosinski, who directed it, did Tron Legacy, and that was a 3D movie, and it looked great. So, fingers crossed.
There's a good chance. There's a good chance there. And the cinematography in the first Top Gun is still beautiful. I saw that maybe a year ago, and I was like, this is actually really well done, and it holds up really well because they actually got the cameras there and got really into those dogfights or whatever. So I'm interested in this.
Photography. Yeah.
It's a corny movie, but I appreciate it.
It's kind of creepy seeing him in a romance with Jennifer Connelly in the movie, at least assumedly, based on the trailers, but I'm still okay with it, I guess. I mean, with the movie.
All right, we got a listener mail, and that will wrap up the podcast. This listener mail is from our patron, Mr. Bengal5. He says, I recently got AMC A-List movie subscription where I could go watch 3 movies per week at no extra charge, including 3D and IMAX for about $20 a month. So far, he's really enjoying it. Have any of y'all had these theater subscriptions before? Which subscription is the best theater to do it with? What chain? What's your experience been like? I haven't had any of these. I was interested in the actual movie club, but then it went under, and I was like, well, that's too good to be true.
Yeah.
And it was.
Oh,
Yeah.
I mean,
Well,
they're
I
still trying
enjoyed it. I enjoyed it thoroughly while it lasted.
Did it actually work for you though? Like, because I've heard people had so many problems with Movie Club or whatever.
Later, yeah. But see, I first got it when it was $50 a month,
Yeah,
and
I mean that's fair.
it was all the 3D and IMAX you could go to.
Yeah, I mean I
Included.
think that's a good deal for $50. I mean, I went to go see Free Guy, and for concessions and 2 tickets, it was $35.
Yeah.
Now, obviously,
More.
the first subscription service did die, but we do have Regal and AMC, and I think Cinemark. I think I had Cinemark briefly, but that deal sucked. I got, I think, like a free month or something, and you get one free movie, and you get like 20% off concessions, and I got the free month, and I saw my free movie, and I was like, I don't really care about that much. Like the 20% off but when you get tickets, so you don't have to pay the convenience fee. But
Yeah,
the Cinemark one wasn't that good for me. I didn't continue it. Classic Jake, you've had the Regal one, right?
Yeah, and I've also had the AMC.
Okay, so what are your experiences with that?
Okay, AMC is probably the best. The problem is, AMC, there was only one in my state, and it's about a 45-minute drive one way. I had to go to Corvallis, and then AMC bought a local theater chain and opened those locations in Oregon and Washington. Thing is, that old theater chain didn't have a 3D deal, so they don't run 3D movies. Only the Corvallis location does, and they're also now only open 3 days a week. So there was no reason for me to keep AMC A-List. The Regal plan doesn't include 3D or IMAX. You have to pay service fees, and they nickel and dime you with the fees. And plus, it's Regal presentation, so your mileage may vary.
it's gotten better in my experience for Regal, but I understand.
Mm-hmm.
I think the prices are all over the place too. I think Regal is cheap, like $20 or something, right?
Depends on your market. Here, it's like 25.
Yeah, here it's $19.
Yeah, I was really interested in the AMC because, back when it originally was coming out, the thing was the same thing with me, is that the closest AMC is 30 miles away, and AMC doesn't always have good times for 3D releases. So it's like, well, it doesn't really work that well for me, because am I going to go out of my way for this AMC, one, and two, are these times going to work for me, which for the most part didn't. So I have gone to the AMC a few times, but for the vast majority of the times I would go to a Regal or a Cinemark because they're closer and have better times. So that AMC didn't work for me for that purpose. Obviously, I think a lot of people got a lot of problems with the COVID last year, and they're not getting refunded and being like, no, we're not going to do that. You paid for it. And it's like, well, I can't do anything. The theater was shut down. It's not my fault. And I don't know if there's like a lawsuit, a class action lawsuit about that, or how they've settled that, because a lot of people were pissed. And they're like, I paid, you had to pay like a whole year, right?
I mean, I know with Cinemark, they had you could put your subscription on hold if you wanted to, and then you could just restart it back up. I don't know about AMC or
And Regal, when they shut down the movie thing too, and they just kind of froze your contract. But once it started back up, you were back on your contract.
The original one is Movie Pass. I'm sorry, I said Movie Club, but Movie Pass was the original one that got this started, and they went under because they were all over the place. They kept changing the rules.
They had a unsubstantiated. They decided to go charge $10 a month, which was awesome. I use the hell out of it, like everybody else.
I could understand for the first month, this, and then you could choose from these tiers, but that was unsustainable.
It might have worked if they had made it $25 a month.
Yeah. Even $50 is a good deal, but I don't go to the movies as often as, movie reviewers on YouTube do, so not a great deal for me, but still good.
Yeah, I was utilizing it at least 3 times a week.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, it just really depends on what movies you're interested in, and if for us, if the 3D doesn't count, well then we're screwed because we want to watch these movies in 3D, and then I think Movie Pass originally had like blackout dates, and like you couldn't do it on opening day, but you could do Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday you could watch it, but you can't do it on Friday, but you can do it on Saturday, but Saturday is different than Sunday, and Sunday has different prices, and it just became too much of a hassle, and Regal has unlimited. And AMC, A-List. I think that is actually, I think all these plans were kind of predating the pandemic, and these plans are going to stay around.
Oh, something I should mention, that Movie Pass, you could go to Fathom events, which is what I mainly used it for.
Okay.
But the Regal plan and the AMC plan don't include Fathom events.
Now, just in case people don't know what a Fathom event is, people in the future, other people outside the U.S., these are like times when different studios would re-release a movie, and have, like right now, they're having Fathom events for Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory because it's the 50th anniversary. And, sometimes some limited releases will get, a Fathom event where I think originally the animated movie that came out 2 years ago, that like a lot of anime gets Fathom events too, where they don't know if you get.
And Leica Studio is getting their stuff re-released as a Fathom event.
Yeah, so the older movies that came out 30 years ago, 20 years ago, whatever.
Yeah, because like Citizen Kane is getting, I think, an 80th anniversary release later.
Yeah.
So these are special event movies, and they only have like 2 or 3 different days you can watch it, and that's it. And that's why it's an event, because if you don't watch it on May 15th, 16th, and 17th.
Yeah, the theory is you get to see it on the big screen instead of your TV.
Yeah. So you would have a Fathom event for Jurassic Park 3D. That's actually how I watched Jurassic Park 3D for the first time. It was a special IMAX event, and Fathom event had, this or that. So it's those special kind of specialty screenings for special movies. So just in case people don't know. So yeah, I think this is the future. This is how movie studios really, keep going, is that they have to have these good deals, or else people are not going to come back in the big numbers. So they were setting this up before the pandemic, and I think after the pandemic, that is a guarantee. If you pay for the whole year of Movie Club for AMC, then that's at least a guarantee you paid for already. They have that money in the bank instead of the randomness of movie people. Some people watch 1 or 2 movies a year in theater, and some people will watch them 1 or 2 a month. And if they have that guarantee of 500 subscribers that are paying $100 a year or whatever, that could be a real good deal for these movies. It's just how that business works, and I think that is definitely the future.
All I know is Cinemark's plan better be better, because their plan sucks.
Yeah.
I know there's a place called Evo that's near me, and they have a plan too. And their plan was just basically the same as the Cinemark, where you get discounts on concessions, you get a free movie here and there, and you don't have to pay the convenience fee to, so I never got into that plan either, and they didn't have 3D very often, so
Yeah.
AMC is kind of leading the pack there. It's interesting to see how that's going to work out, in the future.
Hmm. Yeah, they also have a discount on concessions with plan, and you also can they have special lines, so if it's crowded, they have a quicker line for people who have the A list.
I mean, that's fair. I mean, if I had an AMC theater within 2 hours, I'd probably join. I mean, I'm not driving 3 hours just to go to a movie.
Yeah, I mean, mine's the only one that has 3D is a 90-minute trip for me, and it's not open days I can go.
Right.
All right. With that, we'll wrap up Dead 30 Show 102. So, yeah, a lot of different interesting news coming up. And we're going to try to keep on doing and going and doing what we can. But it's still rough. And stay protected out there. Stay safe. This Delta variant is pretty bad. And people that have been vaccinated are still getting hospitalized and die from it. So you're not safe even if you've been vaccinated. Yeah. So be safe out there.
Yeah. Wash your hands.
Mask up if you can.
Don't lick your fingers.
Okay. With that, we'll end the podcast. Bye.
Bye.
Before this podcast wraps up, I want to thank my patrons. Thank you, Kano3D, Mr. Bengal 5, and Kevin Winter for your financial support on Patreon.com. So that's going to be it for this podcast. Thanks for listening. You can find 3D or 2D on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Pinterest, Instagram, and more. Just look for 3D or 2D. Links are in the info box. If you want to send us listener mail, our email address is email3dortwo@gmail.com. Thank you for either listening or watching this podcast. Goodbye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.